Bill Barnwell is here, senior writer for ESPN. He's on TV. He's on the Bill Barnwell Show. He's in beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. What's going on, buddy?
You looked over when you said senior writer, and then you looked over like you were looking to see which website I worked for. We work for the same place, ESPN.com.
Well, I mean, I was reading off a script here. No. It's because my camera and my laptop are different things, and so I was probably looking at you when that happened, and you didn't know that because my camera's up here. It's the magic of television, Bill Barnwell. I just wanted to see your face as I gave you your official title, which is senior writer at ESPN.
Thank you. I think it just means that I'm old, basically. I think that's what senior writer entails.
It's a literal title. It is a literal. That's what people don't know. It's a literal title. I used to write back when my fingers worked. It was great. It was a hell of a time. It was a great era.
Back in the blog days.
Back in the blog days. I just want to talk about this for 1 second. So I just watched Amazon's Game 7 docuseries, which I think is a really cool theme. And I just watched the Red Sox Yankees Game 7, 2003. And maybe it's because I was a kid. Like, I don't think sports. Everybody's talking about how auraless the championship game was on Sunday night. The Thunder situation there, and I there's a couple of reasons for that probably. But I gotta say, I don't think sports can ever feel as intense as that Red Sox Yankees Game 7, and a sport that like lost so much relevance almost immediately after.
Yes. That's the problem. That's lost. If that had been 20 years of more futility for the Red Sox afterwards, that would be. I mean, Kevin, I lived in Boston at the time.
I know. That's why I'm bringing it up.
I just remember wandering around Boston with other people. Like, it was just ghosts scattered drunkenly around the Back Bay, just walking around at 11 p.m. at night wondering what happened. Why didn't Grady Little take Pedro Martinez out?
Take out Pedro Martinez.
What a time. Pitch counts just feels so long ago.
116 pitches Pedro had during the mound visit. And
wow.
Grady Little was like, I want to see a little more.
We're good.
We're all good.
Honestly, if a manager left a pitcher in for 116 pitches today, he would literally be yanked out of the stadium by the front office.
The GM, I was going to say, the GM would come down and save him, like the boxing episode of The Simpsons where Mo Sizlak grabs Homer while wearing a fan and literally propels him out of the stadium. That's what Brian Cashman or I can't even name that many baseball GMs anymore. The UFC's not doing it anymore.
Was that a party trick you could do once upon a time? You would just
I could do them all. I wanted to be a baseball GM when I was.
Really?
I read Moneyball. Yeah, I read Moneyball in like 2003, and I was like, I'm gonna be a baseball GM, and then I just decided not to be a baseball. I didn't go to an Ivy League school or work at a bank. So what was I supposed to do?
Foolishly, you chose writing instead.
I didn't play, and now I don't write anymore. All right, we're doing AFC tiers. We did NFC tiers with our friend Jordan Rodriguez about a month ago. And it was really, really fun because it's just, one little disagreement can become 25 minutes. And I'll just tell you, Bill, if anybody didn't listen to the episode, Jordan and I disagreed on one thing. Oddly enough, since she's a Rams specialist, she did not have the Rams on Eagles tier, and I did. She had the Bucks on Eagles tier. And we just got into the difference with that and why she doesn't feel like the Rams are on that tier. And it was just so much fun. And it's just a good exercise because I just sometimes it's like I think the apocryphal quote at the beginning of The Big Short, where it's not what you don't know that hurts you, it's the things that you think are true just aren't so that hurt you, whatever, right? Like sometimes I think that it's like some consensus where the Rams are on a top tier, right? And then you get there and you're like record scratched. The Rams writer doesn't even think that. It's a good exercise. I'm into this exercise. We should tier everything.
Tiering everything, drafting everything appears to be the new meta for content. So I'm lucky to be here. I'll take your side of that argument. I just have I'm a little skeptical of Todd Bowles, a little skeptical of Baker making a deep playoff run. It's just not a combo I love. Even if I think they've done great jobs in winning the regular season in a very weak NFC South, I think I would take the Rams between those two teams. So I'm with you.
My microphone just fell down, which is I'm about to criticize a bunch of teams, and the GMs are going to watch this and they can't even
talk into the mic. Can't even keep the mic straight.
So just so you know, the categories: Chiefs tier, we had Eagles tier for the NFC, obviously. Division winners, wild cards, bad and not sad, bad and sad. I didn't really have to explain what any of that was to Bill Barnwell, with the exception of the fact that the Chiefs tier can have other teams other than the Chiefs, as we discussed. Eagles tier for the NFC was, for me, the Eagles, the Lions, and the Rams. And so that was it. And then you need to get into the Commanders and all that stuff. So we will start with this. Your bad and sad tier.
We're starting from the bottom.
Yes, we are.
Ooh. I have one team in bad and sad.
Me too.
Kevin Clark, can you name the team in bad and sad?
So it's the Colts, right?
No. What? How is it not the Cleveland Browns, the team that is just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping they have a quarterback?
I think they've thrown numbers at the quarterback position where they're going to win like 8 games. 7 games. Am I wrong?
I think so. I mean, I don't have any reason to think they're yes.
So they went 3-14 last year.
That's true. Yes. But let's say they win 6 games this year. Do you feel like that would be a positive situation, that fans would feel good about the team if they win 6, if they go 6-11 this year and double their win total?
All right. So here's the deal.
Yes.
This all comes down to whether or not Dylan Gabriel plays.
Yeah,
Dylan Gabriel is the bad and sad quarterback to me. I'm sorry. This is a great thing to get into, because there's ways for them to be bad and not sad. Mm-hmm. And there's ways they're not going to be good. I just want to say this. They're not going to be good.
Sure.
8 games is the ceiling. It's the ceiling, the absolute ceiling. If they play Kenny Pickett and the defense is awesome, and Myles Garrett, who they brought back, is looking good and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I actually just had, because they threw numbers at the quarterback position, because I'm just intrigued to see Shedeur Sanders just as a viewer. Like, he's an entertainment product, right? I just want to see what that looks like. To me, I'm looking at this saying, I want to watch this team. Like, I view it, not to do league pass rankings and infringe on our friend Zach Lowe, but when we're doing Sunday Ticket in the 1 p.m. window, and if Shedur's in the mix to play, they're in the mix. And I wouldn't watch a Colts game if my son was playing in it.
What? Oh, I love watching the Colts, because you have absolutely no idea what Anthony Richardson is going to do.
He's not going to play. He's not going to play. He's getting his 11th opinion, and the entire organization is like, well, that's it for that.
But Shedeur Sanders is going to play?
I don't know.
He might not make the week 1 roster. I will say, if you want to give me Anthony Richardson versus Shedeur Sanders games played, I will set the line at 5.5. On the Anthony Richardson side of things. Like, Anthony Richardson will make a throw that, no disrespect, is Tebow-esque on one stretch. And then that week 1 throw last year where he slipped and still delivered like a 65-yard strike was one of the most incredible passes I've ever seen in my entire life. I have no idea what is coming. I am pretty sure with the Browns, it's going to be a really stinky offense and probably a pretty good defense. And I watched them last year, and that was not a fun formula.
All right, if they played each other, what would happen? Let's say the quarterbacks are Joe Flacco versus Daniel Jones.
Oh, God. It's a lot of interceptions, probably some injuries. I think we're seeing probably 5 different quarterbacks over the course of that game. If we're going to start with Joe Flacco and Danny Dimes.
I think the line is Browns -3 and then Browns cover.
Wow. The Colts. So last year, Anthony Richardson was terrible. Joe Flacco, who was on the Colts, was okay. They still won 8 games. I feel like there's this, people hate the Colts because they're just really boring, but they're boring in a quasi-competitive kind of way. I feel like we're going to get another 8-9 season from them. There's going to be some good Daniel Jones games. He's going to get hurt. There's going to be a couple good Anthony Richardson games. He's going to get hurt. It's not going to be a team that makes the playoffs. Yeah, right. I mean, he's constantly hurt. I just feel like we're mistaking bad and sad for kind of mediocre and boring. That's what I feel like the Colts are.
Yeah, but the problem with the Browns is they really thought Deshaun Watson was going to play quarterback for them last year.
Yes.
That's the reason they were so bad. Yeah, well, I think so.
Well, they went from worst offense in NFL history to Jameis Winston being more excited to play than any quarterback in the history of football. That was not good. It was just not truly historically awful.
The Deshaun Watson thing, One thing I like, and I don't even know if they would have options, is they've just organizationally moved on at the sunk cost. We're not even pretending that it's a thing anymore. I called it reckless because I said it was stupid, and I keep saying this. It was a stupid idea, even if he was good at football.
Right.
Even if he was like the 11th best quarterback in football, still a really bad idea, just generally to throw resources at that. And it set them back a number of years. But I still think Andrew Berry is a pretty good GM. I think the talent level there is higher. Now, listen, again, I'm not putting them on the division winners tier.
Right.
I'm putting them on bad and not sad, which is not exactly something you're going to hang a banner on in Cleveland. But by the way, that stadium needs to stay outdoors. I don't want to do a whole thing on this, but we can't be moving indoors if we're the Browns.
Are you anti-dome in general?
I am out. I have a take on this. Because now that I have kids and I'm going to games more, I like other people being outdoors. I personally want to be in a dome. I wish Giant Stadium had a retractable roof, so that I could, in December, I could just go to a game. Sure,
I mean there's a lot of irrelevant, mediocre games in December and January that would be fun. In that
stadium.
I mean, they could just combine the mall and the stadium, just put it under one big roof.
The American dream.
Yeah. It's Penn Station is a vertical, train station, arena, roof. Just have it be horizontal, just one big roof over the entire thing. Just stretch out.
It would be good. Also, would improve Giant Stadium if it wasn't in the middle of New Jersey. It could be in Jersey. Dude, it is so far from New York City.
But it is not in the middle of New Jersey. It is just over the river in New Jersey.
Functionally in the middle of New Jersey because it takes an hour to get there. And it takes what is this riddle where it takes 2 hours to go the length of New Jersey, but it takes an hour to get to MetLife Stadium? How is this possible? Explain to me the geometry, Bill Barnwell. You're the numbers guy.
It is the magic. The Bermuda Triangle of New Jersey is the Vince Lombardi
every time I go
area.
to Philadelphia, drive to Philadelphia, I'm always like, how far is the stadium? And then I'm in Philadelphia in an hour, but yet Philadelphia and Giant Stadium are not an hour apart.
No, it's true.
No, you just start getting onto the turnpike and just time starts
geographic
speeding up.
mystery.
This is
There's a lot of windy roads.
Interstellar situation. Yeah.
Ooh. Are you saying that if you go to Giant Stadium in December, you are actually you age much faster than you do if you're not at Giant Stadium in December?
I mean, evidence is pretty good, right? Look at Daniel Jones' injury history. I wanted to ask, now that we have two teams on the bad and sad, the collective bad and sad thing, I do want to say, I think that I'm talking about this a lot. I think good teams and bad teams and bad organizations are getting better. I think the floor is higher on the median bad organization than it used to be. I think bullying has worked. I think we're seeing less. We're seeing less, maybe we're just lucky right now, but there's Trent Baalke is cycled out. Jack Easterby is cycled out. A couple of these other, Dave Gettleman, but a couple of, I think Joe Shane has a chance to be kind of look back on that in 3 or 4 years, but maybe we'll see. He's kind of so nondescript that I don't necessarily know if he would ever get that label.
Gone.
Adam Gase is gone, but there's no team where we're just what are you doing? What are you doing? I don't see that right now. I feel the system Raiders is a little efficient.
Yeah, I mean, getting rid of Washington and having Daniel Snyder not make truly inexplicable decisions helped. The Raiders hiring Pete Carroll, I feel took a big step in away from that direction.
Because it could have been a disaster, Pete Carroll without a quarterback.
Ooh, that's true. That's a scary point. There are still moments, though. I mean, there was an Antonio Pierce challenge from week 1 that Nathaniel Hackett was employed as an OC last year. I mean, apparently the run game was terrible, according to Aaron Rodgers, we discovered this week. The Falcons trading their future first-round pick for
that's a good one.
For the 2-1. I thought that trade was kind of circulated out, but there's just, I'll be honest, Kevin, and it's frustrating for me as someone who loves low-hanging fruit, a lot less low-hanging fruit. A decade ago, I could do a column on coaching decisions that were bad, and I would have enough content for 3 columns each week. Now I can't do it because there's not enough for one. People are drastically better. So I do agree. There are still the occasional bad moves, but I like how you put it. The median bad team is better than it was a decade ago. You're absolutely correct.
The other thing that's important here is the Browns. Browns, as the quote goes, Browns is still Browns. But
yes,
the Watson trade is in no way fun or funny, which I think that they used to be like Hugh Jackson and that era was so fun and funny. The Watson trade is just in such a different bucket that you just can't. You're like, this was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah, everybody
was it AJ
skeptical.
McCarron who was the fax machine mistake where they tried to trade for him, but they couldn't get the fax machine to work?
Yeah, that was funnier.
That's what I'm hoping to see. I want more fax machine related mishaps in 2025.
Yeah. The Watson trade was just reckless and stupid and unfun. Like
and they got what they deserved.
They got what they deserved. Yep. I don't really believe in football karma because I see a lot of bad decision makers rewarded all the time. Bad isn't like bad at football, not like bad people. But like a lot of times you'll just talk to people when they put no thought into something and it turns out they accidentally sign an all-pro. Not everything is Vic Fangio telling Howie Roseman that Zach Bond should be their next star linebacker for $1 million or whatever. That's a very rare situation. Normally it's like, hey, this guy Zach Bond's available, and then they just sign him and then it turns out he's an all-pro. Like it's a lot more of that than what actually happened in Philadelphia, which is things are thought out.
Yes, and there's a lot of good GMs who make decisions that are kind of insane to get lucky. I mean, the Eagles were about to sign Allen Robinson when the Rams said, Matthew Stafford is going to call you and we're going to sneak ahead of you. And then as a backup, they decided to trade for A.J. Brown instead. Like, sometimes you can be smart and get very lucky.
Now, let me ask you a question. Allen Robinson was on this show last week and he was a delight. Are you saying that they made the wrong move in LA?
I'm saying he's a very nice man who frankly should be in the Hall of Fame, given that he spent his entire career with Blake Bortles, Christian Hackenberg, everyone, Mitchell Trubisky, pretty much everyone he had before Matthew Stafford was a nightmare quarterback. So I would love to assume he played his career with better quarterbacks, but that trade did not work out especially well for early.
Now he's getting great. Now he's getting great service from me on a podcast. He's finally getting the lobs he's so sought just in the podcast game. All right, so let's do bad and not sad tier. I have the Browns here. We already went through this. I just don't think they're going to be. I think they're going to be more entertaining than you think.
Okay.
What? Also, Flacco. I'm in on Flacco. I'm in on the Kenny Pickett thing. I will say this: Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel both have the possibility to be sad.
Oh, no question. I mean, it is that there was a distinct scenario where that's probably the median outcome for the Browns is like 12 games of Kenny Pickett doing just enough to lose and it just being an agonizing watch each week.
I was on a show a couple weeks ago and I just offhandedly was like, well, Dylan Gabriel is not very good. And so Shedeur Sanders look better than him in practice. And I got an Oregon fan who was just psychotic, like on my mentions, or I don't even know if it was on Instagram or whatever. And they were like, how can you say that a 5-year college starter, 6-year, whatever it was, is not good? And it's like, well, I watch a lot of Dylan Gabriel. I'm sorry. Like that was actually the pick that drove me up a wall, not the Shedeur pick. Shedeur in that slot would have been, I'd have been all in. And he is a better quarterback. Shedeur is a better quarterback than Dylan Gabriel.
I mean, if people told you before the draft they were going to take Shedeur where they took him, people would have said, oh, it's a genius move. But because we saw him fall pick after pick during the draft, it turned out to look like a nightmare.
All right, bad and not sad. Give me your list.
Jets, I would say bad and not sad. Like strangely, weirdly excited in a strange way because the expectations are so low. I would say Jets. I would say Tennessee, where I would expect Cam Ward to be better. I would expect the Jags to be bad and not sad. And I would expect Miami to be... they're closer to
I'm going to push back on that.
Okay.
If they're bad, they're sad.
It would be sad. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's no...
You're right.
They're going to go right down the chute to bad and sad.
It's either wild card, the tier above this, or bad and sad. But bad and not sad. But you're right. I would say maybe
the roster they have. There's just so many high end players that they're just going to be and personalities that if they lose 11 games, it's going to be combustible and awful and terrible.
Oh.
And Mike McDaniel's press conferences are going to be completely insane. It's going to be sub. What we were talking about with the Colts and the Browns, they're not on my bad and sad. They're on my wild card. But if they are bad, it is going to be the most depressing situation in football.
Yeah, I mean, there's like in my head, I think it's 50% that they're a wild card team and 50% they're a really bad and sad team. So I guess I average that out to be bad and not sad. But you're right in that
love the analytics there.
It would be difficult to make it a middle ground. They feel like they went from tanking to exciting to back to tanking or needing to tank so quickly. And it was like an NBA cycle as opposed to an NFL cycle.
Real quick on the Jets. I think that they're not going to skip steps here, right? And like Justin Fields is an exciting bridge quarterback, but he's a bridge quarterback. Like until Rodgers signed, he was the only quarterback making between $14 and $33 million in the league. Now Rodgers is there, making $500,000 more than Daniel Jones on the apparently not sad Indianapolis Colts. So I've got the Jets.
Yep.
I've got the Browns as discussed. I've also got Jacksonville and Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then I got to be honest with you. For just this year, I've got the Raiders.
Kevin, you may notice.
For just this year.
I did not mention the Raiders in Bad or Not Sad.
No, I know.
Bad and Sad, which is
I know.
It
sounds like you're higher on them. Is there anybody you didn't mention?
No. Although I want to ask you a question. Yeah. And I feel like we have not had this conversation publicly, and I want to ask you now here. Are we sure Liam Cohen's a good coach?
Yeah.
Like, are we really positive he's a good coach?
So, are we sure that James Gladstone's a good GM?
No, we're not.
We're not sure. And I'm not saying he is or isn't. What I'm saying is the Travis Hunter thing is a huge bet that hinges a lot on the plan to use him. And like we did a thing, I forget what show it was on, where it was last year. And it was when Dion was like, I'm not going to let Shedeur go to certain teams, which is funny in and of itself that was a whole thing. But you remember when that was a topic on all these shows.
Oh, poor guy.
And what I said in the moment was, first of all, if Teddy Clark was a prospect, I would make sure he missed out on some of these franchises where quarterbacks go to die. But more than anything, if anybody should try to dictate where they're going to go, it should be Travis Hunter. Sure. Because usage rate is so important.
Of course.
And I think, and how they use him in the packages that they use him in, and how much wear and tear he's going to have on his body and all that stuff is vitally important. So I do think it's a bit of a leap of faith to say this guy, who is not, by definition, not plug and play, because you have to come up with a incredible plan for him. And my plan, and I don't know how you view it, my plan is let him play as much as you can in training camp. Just see what he's like against NFL speed, NFL physicality, and let the reps dictate what he does. If he's overpowered, I'm making this up. If he's overpowered as a cornerback, okay, like make him a receiver and then just give him 10 plays a game at cornerback and just work him in. If he can be Ohtani, great, but then you have to dial back how much he can be used. Anyway, there's a leap of faith involved there. There was a true leap of faith. And so with Cohen, I think he's good. We had Dave Canales the year before who looks good. Like I wonder if, Bill, and I've thought about this in regards to Cohen and Canales, if just quarterback whisperer who gives quarterbacks easy answers to the test is a high floor, a high floor, maybe low ceiling, maybe not, but just a high floor higher, where you say at the very least, he's going to give my young quarterback something positive to do.
Sure. On the flip side, I'll play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
This was a guy who was out of the NFL last year, who had basically fired by the Rams the year before. Was that Kentucky? I mean,
he went back to play calling.
Yeah, I mean, when you are the OC for the Rams, usually your career goes in the direction of head coach immediately, as opposed to stepping back to play in the college ranks.
He loves the bluegrass state.
Who can blame him? That's why he's in Florida now. I'm not saying he's bad. I have no idea. I just think he's such a wild card to me. He might be a top 5 offensive play caller. The Bucs were really impressive last year on offense when they lost pieces throughout the year. Cade Otton was the number 1 receiver at different points last year. Yeah. He got their run game going, which had been terrible for 3 years, even with Canales the year before. I think that's a real positive. And I do think there's going to be a specialized plan for Travis Hunter. I look at Trevor Lawrence, and I don't know at this point. I talked about this on some show. I've done so many shows as well. I don't know which one this is on, but this idea of, I was talking about it with you on the NFL folks. Is Trevor Lawrence now the Andy Dalton, where if you're above him in the quarterback tiers, quarterback rankings, you feel good about it?
It wasn't supposed. He was supposed to be generational.
It wasn't. But at this point, if Liam Cohen doesn't fix him, is it not that? Are we not saying at this point that's kind of what this is?
As I've said many times, somebody said to me one time, really smart. They said, not even Andrew Luck was an Andrew Luck type, and we need to stop saying it. Like Trevor Lawrence is the Andrew Luck type. Well, what was the Andrew Luck type? Because unfortunately, the circumstances around him got him hurt, limited him to one AFC championship game, and led to an early departure from his career. And that's not necessarily his fault, but what it is we talk about franchise changers. Well, sometimes the franchise changes the player.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick synopsis. Tennessee. You know how I guys feel about Cam Ward. All I think it's going to be is proof of concept that he's amazing, and that I think he's going to be. I cannot overstate how I feel about Cam Ward. I just can't. I think he's the best. I think he's the best prospect in the Mahomes mold since Mahomes. And I've said that a million times, and I'll just keep restating it.
Do you think they have Commanders or I guess 2023 Texans upside? You don't think it's possible?
Now, let me say this. I've thought no, and I've tempered it. And part of that is self-preservation. If I say Cam Ward is a Mahomesian prospect, but then I go, well, he doesn't have Travis Kelce, doesn't have Tyreek Hill, doesn't have Andy Reid, then I get out of that pretty easily, right? If I then say, like, by the way, he's going to make everyone so better that Calvin Ridley's going to have 1,200 yards and they're going to be able to do X, Y, Z, and they signed Tyler Lockett, right? And like, if I say that they're going to have instant success, then that takes on something new, right? And that's not the reason I don't think they have much talent. We just saw last year what they looked like. Now, some of that was there were games where Will Levis cost them the game, straight up cost them the game.
And so Cam Ward, incredibly funny fashion.
Right. And so going from Will Levis making all these mistakes to Cam Ward, who never, ever, ever, ever made late game mistakes. He did the stupid cross-body stuff in the second quarter because he was just trying to see what he could do, but he was always on time. Everything was on time in the fourth quarter. I'm sure he will make NFL mistakes, but I'm saying you will not have the Will Levis brain farts to cost you the game. Okay.
Yes.
So do I think this is a good question because it's hard to evaluate in hindsight. Do I think, looking back on it now, that the Titans have the possibility to have a similar roster to what the Texans had 2 years ago and the Commanders had last year? Because in our brain, we saw how well they played once those quarterbacks popped, right?
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to put myself in that spot and say, oh, well, look at the rosters here. I think that the Texans probably had better skill guys 2 years ago. And I think that there were probably more premium players on the Commanders last year than there are on the Titans. I don't see a Terry McLaurin type. I don't see the run game. I think that probably, obviously, they've invested high picks with the offensive Titans in the offensive line, but they still have a little bit of ways to go. It's I can't. I mean, I know not. I have no idea what's going on with the Titans defense right now. They have Jeffrey Simmons.
Yep.
He's there.
That's in my notes. In my notes were
Jeffrey Simmons is
Jeffrey
there.
Simmons and question mark L'Jarius Sneed, T'Vondre Sweat. I mean, the defense is the concern here. But I think with the Commanders last year, you would have looked at their own paper and said, okay, like they have a decent defensive line, but you're not thrilled about the secondary. You're not thrilled about the playmakers behind McLaurin. I mean, guys like Olamide Zaccheaus, De'Ami Brown, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz was in an old folks home this time last year and was a useful player for the Commanders. I think that quarterback makes those guys so much better. And Bill Callahan's there, the excellent offensive line coach, or maybe they have those pieces there. Maybe the offensive line does take a step forward.
Are you talking about the Titans wildcard spot?
Why can you infer the teams I'm going to bring up as potential wildcard candidates in this next section who I haven't mentioned yet? Of course, I think Tennessee has wildcard potential.
I love this. Yes, Bill Barnwell.
Of course.
Damn. You know what? It's amazing. I've been sitting here talking about Ward and Mahomes and like Evan Cohen backed me into a corner a couple weeks ago and was like, Is it a disappointment to you, to me, Kevin Clark, if Ward doesn't win a Super Bowl in his rookie contract? And I had to say yes. I had to say yes because I can't. I can't. Well, it's 5 years from now.
It was great. I was driving the bandwagon. I felt good. I was waving. I saw you in the back, and then I heard something, and I had to jump off.
No, that's why Evan Cohen is the GOAT. Is because he backed me into that, and then I agreed. And so now he brings it up. Now it's like gotten shortened to like when I'm on the radio with him, I'm like, well, of course you think that Cam Ward is going to Joe Namath his way to a Super Bowl.
That can work out well for you, though.
It was a disappointment. I would say it's going to be a disappointment. You have to like Van Lathan when Joe Burrow was at LSU. The Dolphins won a game, and so the Bengals. This is like in November. And the Bengals for the first time tied the Dolphins at the top. Remember, it was supposed to be the Dolphins the whole time. Then they played in December and they ended up working that stuff out. It was weeks and weeks before that. So I said to Van, who's a big LSU fan, I was like, tell me what's going to happen with Burrow and the Bengals, just as like a declarative statement. And he said they will make a Super Bowl within 5 years, which was correct, but it's also so broad. They're like, you could still, are we entering year 5?
Yeah.
Yeah. So literally, even if first of all, nobody would have brought it up. It's a great take to just have out there. Also, he wasn't even on the Bengals at that point. It was November. We had a month to go until they even confirmed it. So those are the type of takes I need to get better at. It's just hugely broad takes that you can,
Again, if Tennessee does not make it to the Super Bowl in 5 years, nobody remembers what you said. But if they do, Kevin Clark, very few people remember what you said. But if they do,
I'm playing with fire a little bit. All right, wildcard teams, give it to me.
All right, wildcard teams. Let's do the boring ones first. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Denver. I'm not as high on Denver, I think, as maybe other people. You can always judge a quarterback's true level of ability on how his team's fans talk about him and defend him on social media. And there's real like Mitch Trubisky, Blake Bortles vibes to me here in terms of just
but
Mac
those guys
Jones.
didn't have Sean Payton.
That's the thing. That's the reason I would say they're in the wild card tier for me and not the tier below this. And I think that's because the defense is good, but defense is so inconsistent from year to year. Look at the Eagles and the Rams. They're spending less money on defensive players than anybody else in football by a considerable margin. We're seeing teams say, we're going to invest everything we have into offense because we don't trust defense year after year. And I think the Broncos defense will be good. I don't know if it'll be as good as it was last year. And by the way, they were 1-7 against teams with winning records before that Carson Wentz Chiefs game in Week 18. They're going to play a much more difficult record this year. Much difficult schedule, I should say, this year.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm high on them. They're in my wild card. And I also think that when I think about a team, so I say this about the Bucs too, where I think that in 2026 we might wake up and they have a juggernaut. Where they had the defense sorted out, they had the offensive line sorted out, the quarterback, you just need a couple things to go right. The difference that they have over Peyton has over Todd Bowles is if the question is, can the quarterback get better? And Sean Payton is the head coach. I'm going to take that every single day. That's why I'm going to bet. That's why I'm going to defer to the Broncos as being better than they are. Yeah, and I also think that at some point they're going to win big. Peyton's going to win big there.
Sure,
I picked them to win. I would pick them to win a bunch of divisions except the one they're in.
That's the problem, is they're in that division, unfortunately.
Can I ask you why is it just defense with Cincinnati?
I mean, how what else can you say? Like the nerd part of me wants to say Joe Burrow had one of the 3 best seasons in NFL history for a quarterback who didn't make it to the postseason by some of the numbers I've seen. But then they're kind of running it back without Trey Hendrickson. So I don't know how I could sit here and say, okay, the defense is going to take a bounce forward and get better. We talked about this on TV. There's an element of defense being random, turnovers being random. They had some games they deserved to win last year and lost somehow. But the defense might be worse. Their best player is not there and might not ever show up this season.
It feels like a bleak holdout. It feels like a really bleak holdout.
This is a bad and sad holdout.
A lot of that going around. There's a lot of going around in Cincinnati. I also do not think that, and I don't want to I'm trying to unleash my inner Van Lathan here and be able to get out of this take, but I'm not going to. I'm cursed. I'm cursed with specificity.
Yes.
Lou Anarumo is a better defensive coordinator than Al Golden. And the idea that Al Golden's going to be better coaching young guys because he came from the college level, to me, that's cope for bad draft picks the last couple of years. I don't know how else
it could be.
Say.
I mean, like the question is, if you miss on 6 draft picks, is it the coach or is it the GM? It could very well be the GM.
Hey, do you think it's maybe the owner who acts as the GM who has like 4 scouts and then plays contract games with everybody as soon as they start getting expensive? Do you think that's something to do with it?
I just remember Bengals fans getting mad at me when I made fun of the cart they were using for their press conferences during the Super Bowl season. Like I said, it was signed out from the social studies room, and they got furious at me. Yeah, like that's just what it is. It is what it is. There's something to be mad about.
I didn't know this. That Steve Sarkisian's son, I think, was working as a Bengal scout, and he departed to go work for a college program, I believe.
Sure.
And a Bengals writer or blogger, somebody quote tweeted and was like, "This is like any other team losing 10 scouts. Like to lose 1 scout, we've lost 80% of our scouting department.
Oh no, we've lost our entire brain trust.
Yeah, we have no idea. We have no idea who."
When I used to work for IGN, the video game website, one year I volunteered to review Madden, and they were like, "Oh, we can't have you review Madden because what if you review Madden and then you leave? We won't know what to do." And I was like, "I feel like you'll probably be okay. You'll probably have other people capable and qualified to review the John Madden football franchise that comes out every year that basically never changes. No disrespect to Electronic Arts. It kind of feels like the opposite of that, where like losing even one human being might be totally detrimental. But then again, at the same time, if they had just picked best player available off Mel Kiper's board, they probably would be fine right now.
So the guy's name, this might be unbelievable. Might have stumbled into something amazing.
Ooh.
The guy's name was Christian Sarkisian.
Yep.
But I don't think he's Steve Sarkisian's son. What is the Sarkisian team family cooking? Anyway, he's the new GM.
This is a Mike Lombardi situation.
He's the new. I don't know. He's Northwestern's new GM. Anyway, the joke still stands. Congratulations. I accidentally called him Steve Sarkisian's son. Sure. Barnwell, you mentioned the video game stuff. In Orlando, that's where they make Madden.
Yep.
And I had some friends who got into the inner circle when they were in college and were video game testers. And I was so intensely jealous of them. And after a week, they were like, "This is the most boring job on earth."
Yeah, no, it's not.
It was awful. It was all like making sure the pause menu words were consistent. Like I had a friend who was like, I was like, "What are you doing?" It was like he was doing Madden and maybe a little college football, I think maybe. Yeah. And I was like, "Dude, tell me. I'm trying to, Brock Berlin's passer rating or whatever, right? His throw power." And they were like, "No, it's not what we did. We thought there was going to be that. It's that it was like basically quality control to make sure all of the phrases in the menus are consistent with what the console wants it to say." That was his job. Don't ever become a video game tester.
No.
All right. So quickly let's go through your wild card and just make sure we have all of the teams named here.
Yeah, we as I mentioned, Bengals, Steelers, Broncos. The two juicy ones, two spicy ones, I feel like, are Raiders and Patriots. Right? I mean, is that crazy to say they're spicy, or is it that sort of?
No. I'm ready. I'm ready to be wowed. Take me to the Patriots and the Raiders. I do not have them on my list.
I will start with the Patriots, a team that we were talking about Mike Vrabel like he was the best coach in football 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they're replacing Gerard Mayo, who looked overmatched, I could say, here in New England in his first year with a experienced coach. They signed a ton of players this offseason. They made massive upgrades in a lot of positions where they were replacement level or worse last year. And they have a quarterback who, even though he didn't have a great year, it feels like a lot of people believe in, myself included, in Drake May.
They had the worst offensive line on earth.
They had
that offensive line. It made the Bears' offensive line look like the 90s, like the 90s Cowboys.
But
Larry
I
Allen.
haven't done the research, so this is just my extrapolation, my recency bias. 1 through 10 offensive line and playmakers, that might be the worst group of players surrounding a first-year quarterback in the 32-team era. Concerning the offensive line and the playmakers were probably 32nd, 31st in the NFL as well. I can't think of a worse set of playmakers than what the Patriots had last year.
I agree. I guess that begs the question, is it that much better?
Put it this way, Kevin. Stephon Diggs was caught on video handing out pink substances, and Mike Vrabel, who he loves to be cranky, was just like, it's fine, whatever, it's fine. Who cares, man? It's the off season.
We don't police.
Yes. Jalin Polk has not handed out anything on a boat to anyone, and we're not going to play him instead of Stephon Diggs this year. And then the Raiders, I mean, we made the case for making replacements at the most important positions in football matter. The Raiders had Aiden O'Connell and Antonio Pierce in their 2 most important spots last year. And now they have Geno Smith and Pete Carroll, 2 competent people. They had the lowest fumble recovery rate, I believe, since 2011 in terms of their fumble recoveries. That usually improves the situation. The only problem is that they're stuck in an extremely difficult division with a wild card team and 2 other teams we have not mentioned yet. All
right, well, let's mention them. Division winners. I'm going to go first.
Please.
So just so everybody, people are going to get mad. There's a tier above this, which is Chiefs tier. So if you don't, I'm not going to mention the Bills because they're on a different tier, guys.
Okay.
So anyway, real quick, Miami is on my wild card line. I just wanted to say that. On my wild card line. I just hadn't brought that up.
Yes.
Division winners. Drum roll, please. The Pittsburgh Steelers. The Houston Texans.
Yep.
And don't take this the wrong way.
Yep.
The Los Angeles Chargers.
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay. The Chiefs are still on the Chiefs tier. That's why they have the Chiefs tier. But the Chargers are going to win double-digit games and be in the mix. And I would not be shocked at all if they made the Super Bowl. Not predicting that. I'm just saying that's the type of team.
You want half credit.
Yeah, I want half credit. But
you want half credit, which is fine.
Pittsburgh, I don't know. Pittsburgh won 10 games last year with the most random people on earth.
And sure. So they torment me every year.
Now you add an Aaron Rodgers who can still give you, as they say in soccer, a sport we love, he can give you a shift.
Classic soccer comment.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone is in that, they're going to win 9 or 10 games. We don't need to have that conversation. Let me ask you this. Do you think it's more likely the Steelers are a 12-13 win team or they're a 6-7 win team?
I think 12-13.
You think 12-13?
I think so. Sounds like you disagree.
I disagree, but I am wrong about the Steelers every year. I think every year is the year the Steelers are going to decline. They have a defense that constantly torments me, a coach who is very good, and yet they end up in the exact same spot they were the prior season. I think given the quality of the schedule, given the 40-plus-year-old quarterback who has not been good since the pandemic or the year after the pandemic, I understand.
He's bad in 22.
Hurt in 23.
Jets hurt in 23, bad in 24.
Bad in 24. And now moving away from the offense that he hand constructed to fit his skill set at this point of his career.
Yeah, but he hand constructed it. Well, come on, man. He had Nathan Hackett. He should not listen to himself.
That was his choice.
I know. Trust me, dude. It wasn't a good idea, but it can't. Now Mike Tomlin's gonna be like, you have to run Arthur Smith's plays.
Kevin, if I grow a skullet, just because it's a bad look does not mean that it's not my fault. I'm the one who chose to grow that.
Can you do that?
I haven't tried.
That by the season?
I can certainly get the skull part. I don't know about the part, unfortunately. Okay. I just are you believing that he's going to be a better fit in someone else's offense? Because if he is, then they have 12-15 win
Well, potential. I think that I think a couple things. Number one is that when Rodgers was learning how to do the blind throws that Matt LaFleur's offense required on a play called strike or drift in the Shanahan offense, that he studied Ryan Tannehill's tape with Arthur Smith, who was frankly blown away. He thought Ryan Tannehill was the best at blind throws in the entire National Football League. And I'm wondering if maybe they can do what LaFleur and he did, which is find a commonality between his offense and when I say his offense, I just mean his offense, Arthur Smith's offense and Aaron Rodgers' offense, and just merge the two. That's where I'm at. All right, let's quickly do Chiefs tier.
Yep.
This is the least dramatic. This is why I didn't want to do Chiefs tier very, very deeply.
I hear you.
We know who's on Chiefs tier unless you have an absolute scorcher on Chiefs tier.
I don't. I have Chiefs, Ravens, and Bills. But I'll ask you: Chiefs are in Chiefs tier.
Yeah.
Of the other two teams, of the Ravens and the Bills, did either of them feel more likely to slip to division winner tier between the two of them?
No, not even close. I would say there's nothing that either of them could have done as long as they have the infrastructure, the quarterback, and they didn't lose a bunch of guys. Like it would require a lot more than they actually lost. And like I wasn't like freaking out over the Bills adding Joey Bosa and the cornerback from Kentucky, and like I wasn't freaking out, but like I go back to this. I've asked Brandon Bean about it, where Joe Burrow said this. Ironically, Joe Burrow not in this tier anymore, but he said the window is as long as he's here, and I broadly agree. But I mostly think it's about Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes.
Sure, of course it is, and. I mean, last year was supposed to be not a rebuild year for the Bills, but it was supposed to be a retooling year. That was, we're getting rid of all these known players, the Gabe Davises, the Mitch Morses, the Tre'Davious Whites, all these veterans who have been kind of the core of this team around Josh Allen. And so they were still going to be a playoff team, but it wasn't like, we were thinking they were going to be as good as they were, and they were good. I think they're going to be even better this year. No reason to be skeptical of the Ravens. Do you think either of these teams have a better case to be the best team in the AFC than the Chiefs?
The Ravens.
I
think the Ravens have a deeper roster. I think the ceiling, I mean, Lamar, they're all perennial MVP candidates.
Yes.
It's all, and I've said this before, and it's going to fall on deaf ears for anybody who doesn't get it. They're going in like the US Open in golf. There's like 8 guys who should win every time. Sure. And the difference is like, there was a little bit of wind and that didn't suit this guy's game. Or like Scotty Scheffler doesn't like getting it out of the strong rough.
Are there a lot of golfers who don't handle wind well? I'm not a big golf guy.
Well, no, it's about having all the shots in the wind. So you would have to be able to keep the wind below. Keep the ball below the wind. Like there's a little stuff like that. Some of these Zoomers come in now without all the shots because they learn on TrackMan. Do you know what TrackMan is? TrackMan
I know TrackMan about baseball.
No, well, I'm sure it's the same thing. TrackMan is this like machine that tells you like the spin rate and everything, and so they're not actually out playing as much as they did. Anyway, there are or like Scotty Scheffler, for instance, just like you, does not like randomness. And his whole thing is that if it's a random golf course like Pinehurst last year, he mentioned this, if it goes in the wire bush, which is a really thick bush, he can't hit out of it because his whole game is based on precision, that the idea that you're hitting it and you don't know where it's going to go, he doesn't want to grind. He does, like he says, he didn't say that, but like that's what he means. It's like some golfers are like, oh hell yeah, it's muddy. Like let's do this. This is my game. Whereas Scotty Scheffler is like, I need to know where
Scotty Scheffler wants to play in the golfing equivalent of a dome. He does not want mud. He does not want muck. He wants to play on the fairway.
We got to go. But real quick, if there was a fourth team, would it be the Chargers or the Texans?
Chargers for me. The division is rough, but I think they're just a better team. Even though they got blown out by the Texans last year in the postseason.
I know. I was going to say this is going to age poorly. It already aged poorly.
People being optimistic about the Chargers, when has that ever aged poorly, Kevin?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I actually did this. I said Jim Harbaugh was going to win a Super Bowl within 5 years. Clock's ticking. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, buddy.